The early history of TikTok is not discussed very often, but did you know that a war broke out in the very early months of its existence? A war that pit user against user, brother against brother, a war to end all wars. The year is 2018. The first annual TanaCon opens its doors. The world's best YouTube rewind is released. Logan Paul takes an innocent trip to a forest in Japan. The world of the internet has never been better. But something was missing. Ever since Vine shut down in early 2017, the internet longed for a place where they could once again post a few seconds of video that would propel them to unimaginable heights of internet notoriety. The internet longed for its successor, and a successor would come. Born of the fusion between the Chinese Douyin and the also Chinese Musical.ly, TikTok would one day stand before the world and claim its throne as the king of like kinda short form content, because it used to be just like a minute max, and then it was like 3 minutes, and now we're up to like 10 minutes, and I think now they're trying to do an hour long a video. What's going on with that, guys? What's the point? What's the point? And why the hell is there a shop? But this dark future had yet to pass back in August 2nd of 2018 when the TikTok baby was officially unleashed onto the United States. And the world has never been the same since. Two philosophies of thought dominated the early days of the app, though they both derived from the same core assumption. Since TikTok had Pokemon evolved from Musical.ly, at least from the American perspective, your opinion on the new app was entirely predicated on your existing opinion of Musical.ly. For those who used and enjoyed Musical.ly, the transition to TikTok didn't change their habits in any significant way. The dancers kept dancing, the lip syncers kept syncing, the jokers kept joking, and by joking it, I mean my painting. Not everyone shared this rosy perception, of course, as a whole swath of the terminally online had written Musical.ly off as cringe in typical late 2010s fashion. With Musical.ly/TikTok back in the news, this subsection of the internet gained a renewed hatred for the very concept of these apps, and used the opportunity of a fresh new TikTok to flood the app in order to mock and deride anyone who used the app genuinely. Thus began what can only be described as the ironics. The ironics claimed that the very act of using TikTok was tantamount to cringe of the highest degree, but they used the app in an ironic way to simply spread their gospel. Unsurprisingly, two umbrella factions formed based on these two perspectives. Those deemed the unironics were largely anyone who used the app genuinely and for its intended purpose. Again, all of the previous Musical.ly users, as well as most of the non-terminally online new users, could be sorted into this category. On the other hand, the ironics were defined entirely by their opposition to the unironics, a sort of parasitic entity that only existed due to hatred of the other, their very existence requiring the presence of that which they hate. If you want a more broad info about the ironic/unironic factions, I have a whole video from a while ago that dives into it further. These were the umbrella factions, meaning that other sub-factions had of course developed beneath them. For the unironics, these factions were largely based on the typical genres and interests that existed on Musical.ly. Dancers, lip syncers, funny guys, cosplayers, and notably furries were some of the major interests represented. The ironics had less fractioning, mostly consolidating into their sarcastic and anti-cringe ways. It's important to remember that throughout all of this era, the ironics were the vast minority, a small group of dissenters within the respectably sized TikTok population, so it was much simpler to keep the faction close-knit through the algorithm. Especially at the beginning, the ironic TikToks all sort of formed a monolith, where one ironics For You page was almost nearly identical to another. Meanwhile, the unironics were splintered into different categories based on their interests. Though any unironic was a valid target for ironic vitriol, there was one group in particular that began to receive the most ire: the furries. This was in large part due to the internet's ongoing anti-cringe crusade against furries. So while other unironics were certainly mocked, the hatred against furries had more of a historical context. Notably, this all went down during the end of October and into early November. This is important for two major reasons. First, the war coincided with No Nut November, which had already gained traction as the first sort of date-based trend within the ironic faction. The demographics of the ironics, from what I can tell, were a majority male, and while women can certainly participate in No Nut November, it is almost always teenage boys that think it's so damn hilarious. Essentially, the No Nut November trend acted as a lightning rod for the ironic community, consolidating those most likely to participate in future trends into one algorithmically fueled micro-community primed for mobilization. Additionally, November 10th is National Hunting Day, which is, as far as I can tell, the origin point of the war. Hostilities towards the unironics, with the furries in particular, had always been present, as we discussed before, but the meme of National Hunting Day as a day to kill all furries further consolidated the movement. And thus, the stage was set. Furries on one side, the ironic gamers on the other, and soon the bloody battle would begin. To fully understand the way in which warfare was waged, we first have to establish the modus operandi of the ironics pre-war. Trends were centralized around a core sound or video, with most of the major ironic videos of the time conforming to this idea. For example, the trends around I Wanna Be Tracer and I Baked You a Pie were both built around a specific video or set of videos created by an unironic. Trends were focused wholly on the sound or video that defined the trend, and there was little originality beyond that, at least when it came to the big major trends. While the war continued the trend of using unironic videos to fuel ironic ones, it differed in that these trends were created more on the vibe of the war, and less on any one individual video or sound. A plethora of sounds and furry videos were used throughout the war, and yet they were all consolidated under the furry gamer war trend. Again, this differs from something like I Baked You a Pie, where these two videos were the most often parodied or derided videos. In contrast, again, the furry gamer war was sort of a step forward in originality, where there were a larger collection of videos that were being used by ironics in order to create these trends. Another crucial aspect in discussing this war is to explain how the feature suite of TikTok was significantly more limited at the time. While stitches are the undisputed king of interaction now, in those days the duet reigned supreme. Duets provided a space-based medium to interact with another video, while stitches are more temporal-based. By this, I mean that duets allowed users to interact with a video in real time, often treating the border of the video as permeable. Ironics use this to completely change the context of a video, often showing us what happens just beyond the frame of the original. Meanwhile, stitches only exist after a portion of an existing video, so you're more overriding the original content rather than adding to it. Within the context of the war, kidnappings were a common use of the duet. Users would take a seemingly innocent video of furries dancing or doing some other activity and place themselves tied up in a chair with rope and other kidnapping classics. Additional users would expand this concept by showing a squad of brave soldiers trying to bravely rescue their own just on the other side of the door. Other variations of this include some sort of sniper or scouting operation, or other similar wartime activities adding to the context of the original furry video.
Praying hard. But he can't get rid of me that easily. Who does that ungrateful little worm think he is? Does he, a little to the left, have any idea of who he's dealing with? How could he do this to me? Why?
By now, you've probably noticed that the gamers have a certain aesthetic. The uniforms and loadouts are constructed almost entirely out of old toys and gaming memorabilia, mixed in with paintball and airsoft gear, becoming the world's first and finest gamer military. In other words, the first military I can get behind. Another common type of wartime video is what I refer to as the melodramatic last stand of a valiant soldier, which is, frankly, exactly what it sounds like. The subject of this genre of video bravely takes their last stand as an overwhelming force of furry soldiers guns them down just off screen. You know, I could say something about how this type of video directly replicates this sort of performative masculinity in which a man is afforded a moment of emotional vulnerability only after proving himself, sacrificing himself in this case to commit impressive acts of violence, and how it's especially salient as the majority of users who participated in this trend fail in the typical ideals of masculinity as per their own self-depreciation and diagnosis as gamers. And so this particular aspect highlights this desire for men in our society to replicate and uphold the traditions of masculinity that they might feel they lack in, and that this replication can be directly linked to our modern day alt-right pipeline, which especially targets the gamer type people. But I won't. The next genre of war talk is harder to define in a neat little category, but I've taken to calling them strategy videos. Essentially, this type of video showcases the activities of those not fighting on the front lines. Some are generals and tacticians detailing the current state of affairs and what movements the army will be making next. Others are spies blending in deep behind enemy lines to gather crucial intel. A commonality between both of these is an attempt at hiding the true nature of the video, often telling any potential furry spies that there's a really cool furry video just right after this one, so they should all go check that out instead.
Hit or miss. Alright, boys, don't shoot. It's General Token Fat Kid. I've secured myself behind enemy lines, and I'm going in. Girls, you keep making those sandwiches. If I don't come back, drop an F in the chat for me.
Welcome to Fort Moloko, soldiers. We're well armed. We have traps ready for those furries, and also we have a food and water supply very...
Oh, hello, fellow furries. Don't worry, guys, it's just me. I decided to go behind enemy lines. I have a siren in order to alert our troops, and if I get caught, I have some backup. Wish me luck.
One of my favorite parts of all of these videos, but these strategies in particular, is that these gamers cannot deliver a line to save their lives. It's like there's a get out all of my words as fast as possible competition, and also everybody is pretending to be out of breath, which makes for a particularly nasty Pizza Hut Taco Bell combo.
You know, just me, another furry. Alright, furries, scroll down. Alright, now that they're gone, just me, boys, don't shoot. Alright, I infiltrated the enemy's back lines now. Listen here, guys. I need luck. I want to wish me luck. Triple top this video. Let's get this bread, comrades.
Quick, check out the next TikTok. There's some wild and crazy furry stuff. Go check it out. Okay, now that they're gone. Quick, aim for the head and the tail. That's what the power source comes from. And if that bitch has wings, make sure that bitch don't fly again.
Hello, there's nothing to see here. Just swipe up. Alright, now all the furries are gone. We have some important news, boys. All of our land has been taken by the furries. The only safe place is where I run. The breasts have been taken. We need to spread out and take all our land. First, we'll be going for we're gonna go for Solitude then and sweep all across the map. Alright, boys, let's get them.
You know, thinking about it and recontextualizing all of these videos as just like kids in their parents' house has made it kind of shockingly endearing for me. I keep picturing this guy's mom just like sitting on the couch watching Dr. Phil as her son proudly trounces out of his room in the most ridiculous getup with a Nerf gun, and him having to explain what he's doing, but like the concept of TikTok doesn't exist in the cultural consciousness yet, so she just doesn't get it. The final major genre of war talk is probably one of the more difficult ones to talk about. These are videos I refer to as sandwiches, and it's a topic that I can't really ignore any longer. Unsurprisingly, women were largely disregarded in this trend, being told to stay in the kitchen making sandwiches for their brave gamer boys. This seems to be a direct result of the trend's connection with No Nut November, as we discussed previously.
If you don't like furries, go away. Don't shoot, it's me. We ran out of bread and I had to go get some more. And it is unsafe to go alone and unprotected on the streets. I need to make sure you gamer boys don't go hungry. Please forgive me.
Alright, so today I'm going to teach you how to make the perfect sandwich for when your gamer boy gets home. So obviously, you're starting with bread. And did you guys hear that? That was so weird. Attention all gamer boys, the kitchen has been infiltrated by furries. They stole your property and the sandwiches. You have 48 hours to reclaim your property by doing your best Fortnite dance. Help us.
Hit or miss. Alright, boys, don't shoot. It's General Token Fat Kid. I've secured myself behind enemy lines, and I'm going in. Girls, you keep making those sandwiches. If I don't come back, drop an F in the chat for me.
This was also prime post-Gamergate, anti-SJW, anti-feminist era, so it's completely unsurprising that a group of teenage boys, self-describing as gamers, resorted to the most overdone forms of misogyny. Do I think that everyone who participated in the war was a misogynist? No, of course not. Women were also doing the trend. Do I think they're, like, misogynist? No, of course not. Do I think it's really all that important to bring up? I mean, not really, but I do see it as an example of how pervasive misogyny is, where even in this seemingly innocent TikTok trend reproduces the tropes of misogyny, even if the perpetrators will swear it was just a joke and that I need to stop being a feminazi or whatever. It just ties back into the deeper conversation of how the alt-right pipeline often begins with comedy at the expense of pretty much everyone that's not a straight white guy. If nothing else, this was a significant piece of the story, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. If you have a problem with me bringing it up, don't stick around. Why are you here? I don't want you here. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Also, I don't think it's a coincidence that the war ended up being about furries. Furries have long been the enemy of those who cry cringe at everything they dislike, and it's no coincidence that furries are, on the whole, typically not cis-het men. Furries are an easy target for gamers because no one outside of their community will really go to bat for furries, since even people outside of the whole cringe culture thing don't really understand it. Hell, I don't really understand it, but it's incredibly easy to just not care about what makes other people happy. I can't help but feel that my coverage of this era is lacking. Almost none of these videos still exist natively on the TikTok app, and even if they did, it's impossible to track them down. If you didn't know, the TikTok search feature is just pretty much useless. Trying to track down a specific video from, 6 years ago now? It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is Mount Everest and the needle is a tiny atom, and you're not even really sure if it's still there in the first place. I've been supplementing this video with my own personal recollections of the event, but I need more substance. It's not enough for me to just go through countless YouTube compilations called Cringe TikTok Compilation number 15, Warning, Offensive. I need something more tangible, something more real. To understand what's really going on here, I need to go inside the mind of the gamer. I must become that in which I fear. Hello and welcome to the Gamer Zone. I'm currently wearing my gamer merch, right guys? Minecraft movie, Jack Black, Minecraft movie. I also have my period accurate hat here that as soon as I place upon my head will begin the transformation into a 2018 ironic gamer. So I guess there's nothing left for me to do but to put the hat on. All right, so it just kind of like a normal hat. Get it situated here. What's poppin', gamers? Bitch lasagna, wholesome chungus 100 ligma. My name is Ian Trumpet. I'm 16 years old. I play the trombone and yeah, I love the Soviet Union. My humor's a little dark, so don't stick around if you're easily offended. Those furries are big cringe, and we need the combined might of all the gamers to defeat them. TikTok is the ultimate cringe, but I only use it to make fun of the loser idiots that actually like using the app. Being on TikTok makes me want to drink bleach. I hate myself. What's that? Oh no! Chief needs our help to defend Tilted Towers from the furries. I better get suited up.
Choose your character!
Chief, they pushed into Tilted Towers. We need backup right now. We need more men. We need more men. Every single like sends another troop to the front lines. With me, men. With me. Chief, they're catching me, and they're taking me back to their furry base. I don't know what they're gonna do to me. I'm so scared. Gamer girls, keep making those sandwiches back home.
He can't get rid of me that easily. Who does that ungrateful little worm think he is? Does he, a little to the left, have any idea of who he's dealing with? How could he do?
Chief, I think this is my last message. The furries, they drugged me with something. I can't move. I don't know what's gonna happen to me.
scrolling for way too long now.
Furries, there's a really awesome furry video right after this one. Go scroll right now, you don't want to miss this. Okay, now that they're gone. The furries have completely taken Tilted Towers. Chief is sending reinforcements from Pleasant Park, but we have to rotate towards Snobby if we want to make it out of this alive. Gamer girls, keep making those sandwiches. Guys, I think I finally understand what's going on here. It's a bunch of teenage boys showing off their toys. With all that being said, I can't help but find this era of TikTok incredibly endearing. Yes, of course it has a lot of flaws and problems that cannot and should not be ignored, but at the end of the day, this event was a group of kids engaging in collective storytelling on TikTok. I can't help but feel like something like this couldn't happen again today. For one thing, communities are way too splintered now. When the ironics and unironics were starting out, of course there were those algorithmically created communities, but there was still some more uniformity. Many videos were just monolithic in the community, whether you were an unironic or an ironic user. Nowadays, those communities are so splintered and so sectioned off. The sort of process that I'm taking to calling the noun talkification of TikTok, that some unifying group community activity like this is really hard to pull off. Yes, there have been trends that somewhat replicate this, but none to the same degree as the Gamer Furry War. The Gamer Furry War bisected the entire app. Anyone who is even a little bit on the comedy side of things definitely saw these videos, and the furries and unironics as well were part of the trend, even if most of them were sort of inadvertently part of it. The user base at the time was still pretty large, all things considered, but compared to where things are today, you just can't have that monolithic trend anymore. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. There are certainly things that I would miss about early TikTok and some things that I certainly do not, but overall, this is just an interesting thing that happened early on in TikTok's history that I think is really interesting to explore. And I don't know, I think it's important to have a record of what happened in TikTok's history. It's only the biggest social media app of all time. I think it's interesting to go through the history. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Give me a subscribe if you found this video interesting, or if you found me annoying, then you should also subscribe. Peace. Or peace out. Goodbye.